Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Anyway, on that note, hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part2. Joining me today is Zazubar, and coming back on the show for the second time to have more of his childhood ruined, potentially, is Steve L. Cubed. Welcome back, Steve-O.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
He's looking forward to have his childhood ruined. Now, Milan's not here, so the possibility of that happening is a little bit lower, but not enough where you should feel safe.
Oh no, I want him to feel safe so that he doesn't see it coming.
So feel safe, Steve-O. Feel very, very safe.
Yeah, no. I'm coming on this side, I'm embracing the fear right now.
Basket it. Well, I don't know, maybe it's a safer topic this week because we're not talking about something from your childhood.
Well, instead we're talking about philosophy and religion and things that aren't controversial, so that's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
controversial at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this week we're talking about the 2007 sci-fi film The Man from Earth. And this is kind of an underground movie, and it really shouldn't be because it's very, very good. Yeah. It's kind of like the My Dinner with Andre of sci-fi films.
Oh, yes.
It's essentially a play. I mean, there's no reason this couldn't be a play except for the fact that there are opening shots.
It was actually written as a stage play after the fact.
Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah, this is essentially a play. It's a really fascinating sci-fi movie. And the only way I can figure, like, all right, here's my tweet summation of it, okay? Vandal Savage, except he's not crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. He's not evil. And it doesn't seem... Well, the other thing about Vandal Savage is that he has intricate, detailed memories of his entire life experience. And the really
Bill, just before you start summarizing too much, we've been trying to do a new thing on the review topics where we talk about the movie spoiler-free for just a couple minutes at the beginning of the show, and then we're going to get into spoilers a little bit later on. So let's get brief general thoughts on the film that are spoiler-free, and I'm going to start with Steve-O to put all the pressure on the new guy.
Well, I actually thought that, I thought it was a really good movie. I actually enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I just came across it on Netflix randomly. But I also thought it was a little heavy-handed, especially there are two or three moments where I felt like they could have been more subtle with trying to amp the drama, and they kind of went the easy way out on it, in my opinion. But I thought overall it was still pretty clever and good.
Okay. How about you, Bill?
I really, really love this movie, more so than I thought I would. Now, Ian, when you first announced this, you said something very, very interesting to feel my reaction to this movie very simply. You said that you thought I was going to hate this movie. And
well, I was kidding, but
I
yeah.
know, but I'm going to use your joke to make a point. The thing is that the reason why was because it's entirely comprised of dialogue. That's really the only thing the movie has. Of course, it's visuals and it's acting. But it's actually really funny because this is like my kind of movie to a T. I love action scenes. I love big destruction scenes. I love monsters. I love makeup, all that kind of stuff. CG. But what I love more, whenever I watch a monster movie or a horror film or a science fiction film, one of my favorite moments you get in a lot of genre films like that is the moment where the scientists and the soldiers sit down and talk about what the thing is and explore how that's possible and the implications of it. I think my favorite one is from the original Thing from Another World from 1951, and that's what this entire movie is. And oh my God, is it fascinating! That is the one thing I took away from this movie. Is A, the script is genius, and two, what
A and 2. Thank you, Bill.
what happened?
You said A and then you said 2.
A2, like the sauce. Or it's A1. Never mind. But point two or B or whatever the fuck, is that and now I can. Oh, what also makes the movie work is that every single detail of the science fiction situation of a caveman who has lived for 14,000 years,
Yep.
Every single implication of that being true, how it's possible, the memories, it's so considered and so well considered. It's just, you can't help but admire the writing and just how much thought went into this scenario and the way it's discussed. Also, the situation itself is fascinating because it's a bunch of college professors talking about this, and that makes it all the more fascinating. So just what a good movie, a real triumph for a dialogue-driven movie, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. For me, I really do enjoy this movie. It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, well, this looks like... I remember going through it the first time I came across it. I remember going through the Netflix stream, and I see this movie, I'm like, that's a dumb title. And then I was like, well, let's read the description, because this could be hilarious. I thought it was going to be like a really shitty B movie. So I read the description, I'm like, okay, well, actually, it seems like a fairly interesting premise. And then I really enjoyed it. The plot, the dialogue, just the idea, the premise of the movie alone is fascinating. And it's just something that you have to really watch to fully get. Honestly, we're doing this part no spoilers, but us telling you plot details isn't that big a deal because there are only one or two surprises in this movie.
Yeah.
And if you're paying attention, you can really see them coming. The thing is, so it's worth watching whether or not you'll watch this full episode, but you might have a better time if you start watching it after we wrap up on the non-spoiler part and then come back to the video.
Absolutely.
But that being said, my negative thing about this movie is some of the actors are really bad, particularly like the old college professor who's trying to be cool.
The one in the leather jacket.
Well,
yeah, I really did not like him.
And actually, I just noticed, I was looking this up. This film was filmed apparently in 2007. I felt like I was like in the 80s or 90s, like
right?
Yeah, like all
I thought the same thing.
I don't know if it was the bad acting or it was the set design or just I just felt like yeah.
I thought it was video quality that really stuck out to me. Like, oh, this looks like a.
Well, I mean, it's obviously low budget. Frankly, I'm surprised they were in a house.
Well, I'm sure it was like the director's house.
I felt like they just found this house out in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, well, screw it, we'll just move some furniture and some cameras in here and get done with this movie before anyone comes.
Before the owners get back and they come back and everyone just drives off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was, I had the exact same thought. I was thinking it was a late 90s movie. I was thinking like 96 based on the film stock. And, yeah, it doesn't do much in the, like, if you didn't look up the date, you would probably think that throughout the entire movie because there's nothing in the dialogue, nothing in the actor's presentation that looks like this was filmed in 2007. Where it takes
well, I mean, they have cell phones, but,
you
that's
see
about...
like twice.
Yeah, that's about it. Some of the stuff in this was just absolutely fascinating, but like I said, my biggest gripe is the acting, particularly that guy. He's just the worst.
You know who I thought who was worse than him was the older woman. What is her name? Edith or something? The one who goes crazy near the end of the movie. I know we're a non-spoiler, so I don't want to spoil.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. She was annoying too, but that guy just stuck out like a sore thumb to me.
That being said, quite a few of the performances were quite good. I thought. I thought
the black professor,
Tony Todd. He's a well-known actor by all accounts, so his performance didn't surprise me. The protagonist I thought was reserved in all the right ways. John Oldman. I didn't look up his actor name. I thought that he was. What happened?
David Lee Smith, that's his name.
That's him. Yeah, I thought he was reserved in every single way that was important to his character, and I thought that he really worked well. His love interest, she was all right.
Well, she only has like 10 lines, it seems.
Right. And then the younger girl, the college student, she probably was a legit college student. They were just like, hey, you want to be in a movie? And she was like, yeah, sure.
Well, seriously, those two only get a couple lines, so they didn't. I mean, they weren't great or anything, but they weren't so bad that they could screw it up with just a handful of lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't think any of the actors had that problem. And what really works about this film is that really the thing doing the most work is the script, and that's really key when you have a low budget movie. Is everything that's keeping the movie working is in the script, and that was what really saved it, I thought. If we would have had a mediocre script with kind of, a director like this who didn't really have a lot to work, with actor-wise, this movie probably wouldn't be as good as it is. But with that script, man, oh my God, it really does shine.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys know this, but the script was written by this dude who wrote like a bunch of like Star Trek episodes, and he's like he also wrote a few Twilight Zone episodes. So
yeah,
it's not just some
totally buy it. Yep. Do you know which Twilight Zone episodes by chance?
Looking it up right now.
That's
Jeremy.
cool.
Jeremy Bixby is the guy's name. But interestingly enough, aside from that note about the script, dude didn't actually write it. He actually started writing it back in, I think it was even the 70s, as late as that, or as early as that. And
oh wow, you guys did research? Shit, I feel bad.
yeah, no, it's cool. I was interested because I really enjoyed the movie, so I was like, I gotta find out more about this. And it started. He started penning it in I think it was in the early 70s. I might be wrong.
60s.
Oh, early 60s.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck that. Holy shit. And he never finished it. And on his deathbed, and was it 98? I think it was the year 1998. His son sat by his deathbed, and Jeremy Bixby dictated it to him on his deathbed to finish it, and that's what was shot. And when you have a script like that, the level of passion that must have been put into it in the writing, I think comes out so strong in the finished product, because goddamn, this movie is well written.
Yeah, and on that note, I think we're going to wrap up on the non-spoiler thing. So everybody, It's on Netflix. It's not going anywhere, it seems. It's not one of those Netflix movies. And honestly, if you see this, like, in a bargain bin, buy it, because it's that good. You don't see it anywhere, because it's worth owning,
Mm-hmm.
It's just if you're a big sci-fi fan, it's worth owning. This movie is a great testament to the idea that sci-fi doesn't need special effects or kookiness to sell it.
Absolutely.
That's all great stuff, but it can be just as good based on dialogue and good scripting and everything, or writing in general.
Yeah, also...
It doesn't need the gimmicks like people seem to think.
Also, on that note, please support the filmmakers who made this, because they and the everything that went into it, because it's a really great movie and really, really low budget. They did an incredible job with what they had. So please support the filmmakers. Go out there, buy the DVDs. Do whatever you can to help out, because they really did a hell of a job, and with very little. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah. All right, Steve-O, any final thoughts on non-spoiler territory?
No, I think you guys covered it.
Ah, damn it. All right. Next time, Steve-O's going to talk before Bill does. It's funny, Steve-O's all, soft-spoken, he's very direct and to the point, and Bill just rambles on for, 10 minutes.
I don't ramble, I'm very passionate.
Yeah, sure. You think that, Bill. You think that.
But this is a movie I was introduced to 2 days ago, and I've fallen in love with it so quickly.
Yeah, what were you about to say, Steve-O?
I feel like if I reveal too much, you guys have too much ammunition to ruin my childhood with.
He's pulling back everything you can so we can't...
No, that's the point of the show, is we started this months before we even knew you existed. And it was all an elaborate plot to ruin your childhood.
We found you.
So... Are we changing the name of the show to Childhood Trauma Gentleman or?
I don't know,
Trauma star. Oh my God, Ian, that's our spin-off show, Childhood Trauma, featuring the Geeky Gentleman.
And like the whole movie is just we go into like Steve-O's parents' house. We just go to where his room used to be and just piss all over everything. That was a very
not gonna go that far, but okay.
Wow. Yeah.
That was a very disturbing image, and I want you to picture it right now, Steve-O. Picture it.
Yeah, I'm good.
With your race car bed and Milan just on top of it.
Actually, Bill, I mean, I'm gonna save this for later, but I actually had I didn't enjoy it as much as you, and I had a couple of things that I think could have been better or didn't work for me at least.
Okay, all right.
Well, let's
yeah.
go to the movie.
On that note, we'll let you open with the spoiler territory, and everybody that's watching that hasn't seen it, like I said, you don't have to see the movie to watch this, and you'll still enjoy it probably just as much after the fact, but there are a handful of surprises that most people won't see coming, so give yourself that treat. Go watch it now.
Yeah, also.
All right, Steve-O. Wait, hold on. All right, so everybody, spoiler-free section ending right now. Steve-O, go.
Okay, so I thought that the script is very well written. Just like Bill was saying, they really thought about like why would this character not know certain things or not be able to describe certain things or be able to justify things that apparently he's saying are true for him as an immortal. But what I had issue with was first of all, I didn't buy the initial premise. I'm like, why are these people, these professors, so special in all of history since he's been alive that suddenly he feels like he needs to reveal to them just because they caught him on the way out? Like, what makes them so special out of all of time? As far as I could tell from the whole movie, this was like a first-time event for him.
Yeah, they make a big deal out of that too.
Yeah, and like I found nothing special about these people. Like, I'm sure he had friends who were just as good friends like throughout his life. There's nothing throughout the movie that made me say, okay, these guys are special. There's a reason why he revealed himself to them. Secondly,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
No, go ahead.
I would let's start on that point. I would agree with that. It does seem like a little bit of a weak motivation. I like that they don't spend too much time on it, and that he clearly tries to stop several times throughout, but they keep pressing him. I think it's just kind of like the conceit of the. It's kind of like your MacGuffin, like all sci-fi has, just to get the ball rolling,
Yeah, no, I understood that. I just felt like for such good writing, I felt like it was a weak, like, premise for such a strong writing piece,
I'd agree.
Right, for such a well-considered idea and how well it's ran with, I do agree, now thinking on it, that the conceit of these, 5 or 6 people who he's known for 10 years, about the same time he's known all these other people in his lifetime that he's talked about, why would he just dictate to them this, revealing about himself now? And they do try to kind of explain it, but it's really confusing, and I still don't buy it. Because they constantly ask him, and he gives like these answers. I don't buy it. I agree with you guys. It really doesn't. He doesn't say anything, and nothing is revealed that would explain why he would only tell these 6 people. I thought that they might be doing that by around near the end of the movie, where we think they kind of do a fake out where it's like, oh no, it was all just a story. I came up with it on the spot because you guys were egging me on. That's where I was like, oh, okay. But even then, I didn't totally buy that either. Yeah. So I agree with you guys. It's a really strong conceit.
Well,
yeah, I mean it's just their thing that you have to do to get the ball rolling. And to be fair, they do their best to try to make the characters likable enough that you could see, enjoying spending time with these people.
Art was annoying.
Was Art the guy with the hat?
No, the leather jacket wearing dude.
Oh, okay.
Leather
Just let this guy leave. Sorry, go ahead.
They do their best to try to make the characters likable. I think with better actors and with maybe like a prologue where we get to see these people beforehand. Part of the one part of the conceit that does work, though, is that these are the professors, these are the fields that could confirm or deny it. So
Yeah.
you need these people to be there to ask the right questions. You know, you need the religious lady, you need the ancient history professor, you need the biologist, you need the anthropologist. So
Right.
that was the perspective, and the psychologist, of course. That was the perspective that worked with it, in my opinion. You know, it's a weak conceit because there's nothing that like tips that these characters are any more special than any other characters or
Right.
any other people he might have met. But at the same time, it's just what works.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just to make it work in this problem. So yes and no, it doesn't really bug me as much as it does you guys.
Well, it didn't destroy the movie by any means for me. The only thing that kind of I think would have fixed it is if this is the first time he would have been a college professor, because they say he has been doing that. He's been doing that profession for a very long time. He's done it through many different lifetimes.
Well, no, he's been teaching different disciplines. He keeps learning different fields.
Right, but my point is that he would have had other college professor friends who could have asked these correct questions. So there's nothing in the film that states why it was these specific ones.
Yeah.
In terms of other things that we can kind of start off on, I thought that it was kind of I thought that I felt like they were kind of running around the same bush too many times. Like, you know, again, what makes the movie so brilliant is how well considered a lot of the ideas are. You know, the fact that he doesn't remember everything. It's not this instant callback memory thing, because he makes the point, do you remember what you were doing on this exact day a year ago? Now imagine that from my perspective. So, great point. That's fascinating. There are like 2 or 3 points, though, where they start to repeat the same thing. And to be fair, it's human conversation, and this is a very naturally written story. But I feel like, and that's one that they do kind of come back to too often, where it's like, okay, we get it, he doesn't remember everything. Is that point of everyone kind of gets back to the whole thing of why can't you remember this specific thing? Yeah, that was one thing that kind of bugged me with the screenplay. Since we've been praising the hell out of it, and it deserves it to be sure. But that was the one thing where I was like, we don't have to keep coming back to the same point.
yeah, and
Yeah, but it's weird because I mean, part of the fun of this is you don't know whether or not he's lying, and I mean, it sounds like one hell of a lie.
Yeah,
so they try to
try
trip him up on details. I think the moment that happens the most is when he talks about meeting someone else that he thought was immortal.
Yeah, that was.
He's like, I don't remember. I've never met anyone else. And it's like, but wait, you just said earlier that you'd never met anyone else. Slip of the mind. Really? That was really weak. It felt like they just didn't want to go back and change that scene for continuity's sake.
Right. Yeah. Well, it also builds into the last reveal where it's like, well, no, the second to last reveal, because there's another reveal at the end where it's like, and it's a fake out where it's like, oh, it was all a story. And it's times like that where it kind of builds into that fake out, but I don't know if that was intentional or not. That's the thing. Because you can make an argument for sure that, oh, that was put in as kind of a double entendre of building into the fake out, and also, again, considering this whole idea of he can't remember everything. In that same vein, though, one idea I thought was really cool, just kind of in the wide genre of immortal films, like we reviewed Highlander recently.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been on a kick lately.
Doctor Who, Highlander, it's Ian's obsessed with immortals, and Torchwood even.
Well, you know what, guys? I have something to confess.
Oh, no.
oh man,
I hate to tell you, but I'm 9.
as long as I don't have to be the leather jacket guy.
No, I'm 9,000 years old.
Can I be the one who's really fun and makes jokes? The one who looks like Sylvester McCoy?
No.
Oh, okay. Damn it. Anyway, but the one I
Oh, so you're just cool with this? It doesn't even fucking
I
matter.
don't, because Ian, it's funny. I actually
You look good.
Nicola was telling me
Thanks.
earlier. Yeah, you look. Yeah, for sure. But Nicola was telling me earlier she thought she saw someone who looked like you in an older movie. So.
So yeah, I'm a vampire.
Oh, that was a really interesting idea too of what the hell is he? Because there's that huge rant that the
Oh,
old
Bill, before we get on to that, Steve, do you have any thoughts on the whole immortality bit that Bill was going on?
Oh, actually, when you guys were saying that you guys didn't like how he was like, oh, he forgot that there was another guy there, and then later he's just like, yeah, oh yeah, there was that other guy that he might have been. Actually, I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that given the script, given the carefulness with which it was written, with all the connections and stuff, I gave the writer the benefit of the doubt, and I thought it was purposefully done as sort of a I forget things, sort of another insert right there. So I actually didn't mind that at all.
It's just that it's kind of written off so quickly that it's a little weird to be watching and be like, oh wait a minute, but yeah, they're right, what you said earlier. But there's actually one thing I was trying to build up to, and I keep getting on other trains of thoughts. I apologize. The one thing I was trying to get to was I really like the scene where Tony Todd's character, the African American archaeologist, is holding that piece of the flint thing. And it's obviously supposed to be kind of a fake out towards the beginning of the movie that's our first tip off that, oh, he's a caveman, because he's got this artifact that is apparently very, very rare. And he and it seems like when he throws out, oh, I bought it for 25 cents at a thrift store, that's kind of a throw out excuse and not the actual reason. And then when it turns out to be the actual reason, I found that hilarious, and in a good way. But based on that, another idea I really liked was when Tony Todd's character says, you must have artifacts, and he's just like, and he holds up a box cutter and says, would you hang on to this for the sake of a memento?
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really realize what's valuable historically. I mean, we find arrowheads, and those go for a couple $1,000s sometimes. But, they literally shot him and left him in the ground back in the day.
Yeah, because they didn't care. It's like, would you hold on to, like, a roll of toilet paper? Because one day it's going to be historically significant?
Yeah, it's weird. I did that video with Cap a couple weeks ago, because he and I are doing the Star Trek minis. Plug.
You whore!
And something that I found interesting is, we're this episode of Star Trek where a guy's time traveling and he's claiming to be a historian, and he's asking these really odd questions. Like, they're in a conference room and he goes, do you all sit in these exact spots? And they're like, usually. And it's fascinating. Like, yeah, if you, from like the perspective of looking back, there are all these little details that, everyone wants to know about, but no one from the time would really care about. Like, if you get a time machine and you go to the Roman Empire, ask them what's up with the leaf crown thingy. Ask them why leaves. Because the Romans had the ability to forge gold into the shape of a crown. But they just didn't. They had the little leaves, and no one knows why.
Right.
It's been lost to history. And there are all those other things. It's like, yeah, I mean, of course he experienced it, but why would he care? It's one of those little things. I'm like, yes, I do know that this website exists, but I have no interest in it. I never go there. It's like if I go back to 2005 and I'm like, oh my god, Facebook, and you'd be like, so it's just a website,
right. Yes, exactly. Same thing with MySpace now. It's like, oh, that's gonna die very quickly.
Oh no, it won't.
MySpace is enormous, man. That's my younger self. But based on that, I really found it fascinating, the whole concept of he kind of became this college professor archetype in order to learn to look back at his past in retrospect and figure out what things were. For example, what the hell he is. And not the whole immortal thing, but what he was when he was a caveman.
Oh, Cro-Magnon.
Cro-Magnon. And I was like, that is such an interesting idea, and it makes so much sense. Because you wouldn't just be able to be like, oh, I was a Cro-Magnon, I was this kind of caveman. Because you wouldn't know until you did research of what it is. Until the entire species looked back and said, oh, here's what that was, here's a name for it. He's like, okay, maybe that's me. He has to do research in the context of modern science, and then he can base it in his memories and be like, okay, yeah, that was me. And I thought that was so cool, and the more you think about these kind of things, you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it was just ideas like that where I was just like, oh my god, this movie is so fascinating. And what also works in that same vein is just the dialogue, the back and forth of these college professors also really works in that way too, because it's not an interview, it's not a question and answer kind of thing. Sure, they ask a lot of questions and he gives a lot of answers, but it's a lot more of consider this, and then he's like, oh no, consider this, and then it's just a back and forth. It's a lot more of a debate than an interview. And that was another thing I found really fascinating, and it made the movie more engaging as a movie, because it has drama in it in that way. Because if it was just an interview, then it doesn't have the same kind of drama. The only way I can see that if it was just an interview, like between, say, the archaeologist and him, is if it was something like Interview with a Vampire, where they were doing flashbacks, and that's clearly not what the movie was going for.
I mean, you could have done this with a higher budget. This movie, it could have been done like flashing back to these different scenes of these different times in his life, though that could very easily turn into the 2,000-year-old man.
But here's my problem with that idea.
Well, hold on. Bill. You're turning into Milan. Steve,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I think I was about to say the same thing Bill was going to say. If you do that, though, you kind of lose basically the is he telling the truth or is he not sort of aspects, you know?
Yeah, you do lose the air of mystery that this has.
Exactly.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the 2,000-year-old man, which was an old Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks bit that they actually made a book out of. That had some brilliant moments. It's the same premise as this. There's a guy, and he doesn't know why, but he's lived for over 2,000 years. He's just started counting when it was 0 AD. And so, like, there's all these really funny bits in it. He's like, oh yeah, I met Jesus once. He was a great kid. I owned a little shop. He'd come in, ask for some water, and then leave.
He was a little fucked, too.
Well, no, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So he's like, he made Stars of Davids. He had a factory where they made Stars of Davids, and it was a brilliant operation. I'd get 3 guys to run at each other with these pieces of wood, and they'd smack into each other and make Stars of David. Then my buddy is like, I got this new thing, it's called a cross, and I told him that's terrible business. But no, 2 guys, 2 pieces of wood, cut his production in half, sold millions! I wanted to use that to transition into possibly the part of this movie that's very controversial, but incredibly fascinating. So when I said that this movie was about Vandal Savage, except he's not crazy, that's one tweet review of this movie. The other tweet review is this movie is about Caveman Jesus.
And not in the sense that this is the Jesus of the cavemen. No, we find out that Jesus was a caveman.
Yes.
And it's just like, what?
So, Steve-O, since you're the guest and you're the one that started off with saying, oh, this is incredibly controversial and stuff, I'm going to put all the pressure on you and ask what your thoughts on Caveman Jesus are.
So I think that was one of those things that you could go one way or the other on. I personally actually kind of liked it. I mean, I think, not to offend anyone, but I think it also might have to do with, like, what your religious beliefs are, or, you know, I'm agnostic, so it doesn't really offend me, but I actually thought, I liked how, like, he was saying, like, you know, I didn't say who I was, but this is like all the things that happened. I heard about like Buddha, and I wanted to bring that to the people. What I like that, but I don't like the fact that there were a little too many coincidences with him either running into famous people or being a famous person. I thought there were a little too many of those things. I mean, that being one amongst them.
He studied under Buddha. He was friends with Van Gogh, and he was Jesus. I'm trying to remember if there were any others.
Yeah,
he had a chance to sail.
He also lived under Hammurabi.
Yeah, and he had a chance to study or to sail with Columbus.
Yeah, that's true. Though to be fair, I think that it's all under the banner of he's an intellectual. And for a lot of these people, these were the people who were the aspiring intellectuals of their time, so maybe he was kind of attracted to them in that way. But let me ask you guys this. One of the first points that they make based on his account is the direction he went in following his finding out he's immortal. He says, okay, I was here, this is probably where it was, and I headed east. So if he's going from the Mediterranean, you know, I would really like to watch this movie again with a pen and paper and kind of write down his probable location based around these accounts he brings up. Like, if he heads east, then his farthest reach would be where Buddha was, and then would he head back, and then he would head back west for when he would become Jesus, and then he would stay around there, and then you would get to the Van Gogh and the Columbus thing. So I think it'd be really fascinating to go with a pen and paper and base that. You start from that point and see if the rest of the story makes sense.
No, I think it does.
Yeah.
It's he talks about everything being plains until he sees the British Isles before they'd separated from the rest of the continent, and then he starts to go east because the sun's warmer, making his way through the trade routes around the Mediterranean. He studies under the Buddha, which I love the connection to Buddha and the very basic teachings of Christ.
Yes.
I thought that was very interesting. Because it's one of those things like, all right, one of the things that fascinates me is the word I made up, remix-a-haptology. And for those that don't know, I guarantee you've experienced this at some point, where you thought you had this really great premise for, I don't know, a story or just a paper, something that you thought was really interesting and really original, and then, you're doing your research because you're writing it or working on it or whatever, and then you stumble across the exact same idea, but not only is it the exact same idea, but it's been done better than you had already conceived of, and they've thought of things that you hadn't even touched on yet, and it's just that happens a lot, especially in philosophy, but it happens a lot just with writing and stuff. You come up with this great premise for a story, and someone goes, "Oh, you mean like this movie?" And you're like, "Fuck!"
Yeah, I get that a lot. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, oh, I should approach or for us as reviewers, I should approach this subject in this way. Oh, you mean like this guy did? Fuck you for telling me he exists.
Because if he didn't exist, I could just assume that he didn't. Go on with this, and then I could later claim that I didn't rip him off, and it would be true. But now,
yeah, I mean,
it's
like,
questionable nature.
A popular example that kind of connects with this is there's a show called Mr. Deity on YouTube, and there's also another program that was called God Inc., and they started at the exact same time. Mr. Deity got significantly more successful, but they're these really, funny premises, making fun of, issues with Christian literalism, which is always entertaining to a certain extent. In this movie, I like some of the things about that, and I like the way that they connected that, no, actually, Christ is derivative of Buddha. It just got messed up by the church. I was like, oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, also the name Jesus came from.
Yeah, that was really cool how they worked that out. Because that is the actual theory on how Jesus's name ended up being Jesus. Because just that's not always what it's just one of those weird things that kind of pops up. It's like, well, why was he named Jesus? Because they never explain it in the Bible. They say you will name him Jesus. They don't say why.
Right. I also really liked that whole concept of him actually being the basis for Christ, because they make a very clear distinction. I wasn't really Christ, I was the basis for him, because the dude in the book is not who I am. What happened to me and what I did was kind of fictionalized in that way, or exaggerated, I suppose.
Well, no, it said it got blended with myth.
Right, exactly.
And that was fascinating. It's like they weren't apostles. They didn't go teach anybody. Peter learned a little bit more about fishing.
I love that. Was funny.
That was great. I really liked that line.
Also, the explanation for how he rose again was great. I learned how to pretend to be dead, and then I stopped it, and then it was great.
Yeah, that was okay. I don't know. That did stick out just a little bit because the thing is, let me say this, that stuck out in a way it didn't really need to, because like that's the only time he mentions learning anything like about physically controlling your body in ways that seem supernatural. Um, and he already says that he doesn't scar, so I think it would have worked a bit better to go with just the Wolverine premise of, yeah, I died, but 3 days later I came back to life because that's how my body works.
Right, but it's also considered whether or not he can be killed with an external force. Like, I mean, they say that he's been, very badly sick before.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just saying I would have preferred they not have that issue of, oh, I learned from Tibetan monks plot contrivances.
Oh, they didn't say that he specifically learned it from Buddha.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a little awkward.
Then
that seems a little bit like a contrivance to me. I thought, because I must have misheard. I thought they said, "Oh yeah, Buddha taught me that too." Because I'm like, "Oh, so that."
No, he says he learned it training in Tibet, and I'm like, yes, there are like these methods out there that say this can be done. I don't buy it. It's weird to have two supernatural elements when you definitely don't need one, because the premise of yours works so much better. And they really just put it in there so they can bring up the question of whether or not he can be killed externally. And, I mean, yeah, that's your way to quote-unquote prove it, is just shoot him and then he comes back to life. But, I mean, you can work that out differently. You can say, if you want to do it that way, it's like, so if I shoot you right now, will you die? He's like, no, I'll come back to life, but say you do shoot me and I'm lying.
Cool.
That would have been a significantly better way than to do the whole Tibetan monk line to me.
Yeah, I can agree, because it creates a problem of there had to be another incident that we have to explain really quickly, as opposed to it's already built into the premise, so we don't have to worry about explaining it, because then it kind of gets in the realm of, unnecessary exposition, and unnecessary exposition is very rarely a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it would have been better if they just gone with that, with the premise of, oh, I can't die, like I physically cannot die, kind of thing, that Jack Harkness thing.
Yeah.
Because then you could have had him talk about being in wars, too, and that would have been fascinating. That's the one thing he doesn't talk about. He never talks about being a soldier.
Right, but it's also questionable, since he studied with Buddha, and since he had all these, these things that he wanted to teach, that would he even consider being a soldier?
Not necessarily. I guess I agree with you to that point, but if he talked about being drafted or something...
Yeah, that could have worked fine.
I don't think he knows if he can die or not. He says, "Oh, I don't know if I can be killed." Like, I said I don't die, but it doesn't mean I can't be killed.
Right, that was...
Yeah, I agree, and that's the thing, is like, I think that's a problem, because it creates the reason that, oh, well, he needs to have this other method to work in with the Christ thing, so we'll just give him this other ability that he learned. And fair enough. I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't heard of that before, but still, it's just the weakest part of the whole Christ section. I really do love that.
I agree, because it's like the whole premise of the fact that he was Jesus was that a lot of this was just, fictionalization of like what his actual teachings and beliefs were. And so a big part of like the mythology of that is like the coming back to life. So, if they were going to fictionalize his life and like use like old myths to make it more mythical, he didn't need to. Like, they didn't need to like go into that tale. Like, once you get into that part, it's like you're gonna have to start like explaining like other things, like what other things actually happened that he would have to explain. It was unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's a throwaway line, and we're really harping on it more than we should be.
The worst line ever.
Yes, I agree.
Fuck you,
this is
Jeremy
worse.
Bixby.
This is worse than in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where she says, "Mother, you're alive." Yes, it's too bad that soon you will not be.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You're ruining my childhood. Thank you.
You're welcome. That scene is like the worst scene ever. Oh my god. That movie is so bad. It's weird because, I mean, the first Mortal Kombat movie, while bad, is not terrible. But that one, it falls apart so
Okay,
much.
I don't know what this says about me as a human being, but okay, I actually like that movie.
Oh, good. Okay, fuck the Man from Earth. We're gonna talk about Mortal Kombat and
Oh, good, something I haven't seen nor care about.
Well, too bad. You've been talking a lot, so I'm gonna get Steve-O talking about what he likes about Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
No, I mean, it's one of those movies where you can't explain it. Everything about it is horrible, but you just like it. It's so bad it's good, you know?
I have that with Tremors 3.
Okay. So, like, alright, fine, but you gotta admit that there's, like, gotta be one thing in that movie that you just, like, cannot stand. So what is it?
No, well, the one thing I love is, I think it's this, you guys remember the soundtrack?
Yeah, I've never seen anything involving Mortal Kombat.
The Mortal Kombat
Okay,
soundtrack.
Bill, next time I get a review topic, we're reviewing the Mortal Kombat.
Fuck you!
I don't know, I just liked it, but, anyway.
Fair enough. I just got it. Like when you said that, I was like, oh my god, yes. But anyway, Man from Earth. It's just I think we're harping too much on this one line. I mean, it really is a throwaway line, and they did want to have the conversation of whether or not he knows he could die. And I mean that is fascinating. The whole scene with the gun is really scary.
Yeah.
Because it comes out of nowhere, and deservedly so, because it was supposed to.
Right.
Right. Do you guys feel like it was the way it led up to it was done well and believably though?
I like that the psychologist was the one that did it because it was the most irrational action in the entire film, and I like what they did with that character.
I felt like he was a little bit too quickly thrown into the situation.
I would have preferred if he was there from the beginning as well.
Because he gets there, we do a cut, presumably so we don't have to go through the whole caveman explanation again, which is fine. And then he's just kind of with us. I'm just like, that's a little awkward.
Yeah, and then he leaves again, and then he comes back. One thing, because all right, here we go. Spoiler for the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That this is the biggest twist in the movie. So. Once again, if you haven't seen it, you don't want like the major twist spoiled.
The only twist, yeah.
The psychologist is actually one of his sons.
Yes.
And he dies at the end of the movie. But one of the things that's really interesting and really subtle, and like I said, if you pay attention, you can see this coming. When the psychologist comes back, says, can we get inside? It's really cold out here. And he does this really weird thing. He grabs the guy's coat and closes it, puts his arm around him, and takes him indoors. You know, it's very overly familiar, and it's kind of a reveal that this guy's kind of, a little bit too close to him, isn't he?
Well, doesn't he also have a line like, "You're always cold, group"?
Yeah, he says that at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, yeah, that's where it first hit me off. Like, oh, maybe this is his dad, because he says he was gone.
Yeah. That and the other scene is the moving men are coming and they're taking all the stuff out, and he tells them to leave the couch, and they're like, oh, no, you don't have to do that. He's like, no, you have a heart condition, sit down. It's just like, he was very, very protective of that guy. And, like, you might not notice it the first time around, but the second time I watched that and like I knew the plot twist, I really did catch those things.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Where were they supposed to be? Because like I know like he was like a professor in Boston when he had that guy as his son. Like, was this somewhere else or was this back in around that area again?
No, it must have been somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah, it looked like country or like out of city kind of area, which makes sense that he would live there for his character. I thought that was a little touch.
Throw out and guess Arizona.
It looked like Arizona to me. Yeah, I could see that.
Only because it's not barren enough to be Colorado, but it's still got some deserty Midwestern aspects, especially with what you can see of the horizon. So I'm gonna guess Arizona.
I asked that because do you guys think it was a little too convenient that his son, who he had like within his lifetime, happened to move to work at the same school as a professor as him?
See, I would agree with you if I didn't think that he purposefully did it.
Especially when, well, especially consider the fact that he's near the end of his life.
Yeah, I really think that because there's a couple lines that he has when he's talking about, these, false lives that he's lived, and he's like, I've come back as my son a couple times, that helped, got you some connections, and you didn't need to work so hard to get a job. It seemed like he'd done this before, and that he'd kind of gravitated toward, like, he'd kept track of his kids and kind of gravitated toward them after he knew they wouldn't really recognize him anymore.
Right.
Because then there is that level of, like, this isn't with everybody, but you see that a lot in fiction, and it's fairly believable that you're related to someone, so you might, even if you don't know it, you might be more friendly or more accepting of that person.
Right.
Especially if they're doing the right kind of things, if they know and you don't. They did that in an episode of Doctor Who, Father's Day, right?
They did. He was, what's his name? Pete Tyler was a lot more like, he told Rose things that he would never tell anyone else, and he's like, I don't even know you, and I'm telling you things about my wife and my child that I would never tell anybody. And just, that happens sometimes.
And I mean, that's kind of an iffy premise, but still, I felt like he did that on purpose because especially given how protective he was, I think he moved to that college because he knew his son was there, as opposed to they just ended up there.
Right, and again, I think that part of it was and we have no precedent for either how many children he's had and whether or not he's done this before, because he says at one point, or at least he's very cryptic about whether or not he's even had kids. And
oh no, he really is. He definitely says that he's had kids before.
Really? Because I thought he said something more ambiguous.
No, I mean, like, when he's having that conversation with the love interest outside in the...
No, I meant when they actually asked him straight up, do you have any children? And I thought he gave an answer that was very ambiguous.
Well, no, let me finish. As he's talking to her, he says, you're going to get old, and any kids we have will, too. I mean, he clearly states that he's had kids before. Or he clearly references that he's had kids before. He's not out there swinging his dick around every bar.
And if I was him, I would be.
I mean, honestly, that's what he should be doing, because if he gets enough influence in the gene pool, he could very well establish a line of immortals.
We don't know if it's a trait that passes from father to son. And
well, no, I mean, they say that it's the explanation they give for how it works is that he's got perfect cell regrowth, which is interesting enough. Which is very Doctor Who.
Very
also.
Well, it's another one of those see, I wasn't crazy about the bullshit explanation they try to give. Like, it's obviously impossible. But
I mean, just the idea that all your cells regrow perfectly as opposed to, faulting over time. That's interesting enough, and I mean, it's believable to a certain extent, but I like that they don't go too far into it. I'm just saying, like,
I agree.
Genetically, if that is the thing, or whatever it is, if it is genetic, then, I mean, yeah, it would make sense that he could, if he established enough heirs, he might diversify the gene pool enough to spread the mutation.
Right, but the only son we see of his is Gruber, and clearly he doesn't have that gene, so.
I know that, but that's why I'm saying if he kept doing it again and again and again and again and again, to the point where he's like Ramses up in this bitch.
Right. But also, they also don't explain why it started at 35.
Well, no, he said he lived until 35, or he aged until 35 and then quit.
Right, but oh, you mean it was a conscious decision?
No, I mean he aged
right,
until he was 35 and then it quit. No, he just said it did, and that's, it's one of those weird things. We don't really get an explanation for it, and I like that we don't.
Yeah, and it's a conceit of the whole sci-fi genre. It's like, if it's a conceit of a lot of sci-fi. Like, why, if Superman is technically immortal, why did he grow up to be that age and stop there too?
because comic books are awesome.
Or Highlander, even, you know, why did it start there?
No, Highlander, it happened until he was about to die. Or maybe you age till your physical prime. I don't know.
That's what makes sense to me. And it's just an interesting thing to consider. It's not a problem. I don't think the explanation for how it's possible in this case is.
No, Bill. You know what? I want to see a movie now about an immortal baby.
Well, that's one thing that kind of makes Doctor Who kind of special in this case, because the Doctor is able to have control over what he regenerates into, at least minutely.
I mean, he can pick his dress size.
Yeah, he could technically, based on what River says. But anyway, let's not talk about Doctor Who. Although I did think about it a little bit at certain points, where I was like, oh, this is kind of like Doctor Who in that way.
I mean, anything with immortality, and when you start talking about large scopes of history, that I mean, that's one of the most fascinating things. Every time someone brings up immortality, I really just like when immortals talk. I don't know why. That's my favorite issue of Sandman, where you just get two immortals just hanging out. I don't know why I found that so fascinating.
Yeah.
I love those things, and this is the same thing. It's people in a room talking,
Yeah.
but it's
Oh,
fascinating.
it's wildly entertaining, and it's a triumph of dialogue. I think it's such fascinating dialogue, such fascinating implications that you don't need flashbacks of him actually getting put on the cross. You don't need an action scene of him fighting a saber-toothed tiger or whatever.
I mean, I'm not saying that stuff couldn't have worked in a different style of movie. If the air of mystery wasn't there and this movie had a big enough budget to do it right, that could be interesting to look at.
Right.
While it's talking, just to diversify the film a little bit visually, but you don't need it.
Yeah, because in this
Steve-O,
case,
you were about to say something now?
what was that?
Steve-O looked like he was about to talk, and then you kept.
No, go ahead.
Well, no, talk. I'm putting you on the spot because you don't talk enough when you're on the show.
No, I mean, I agree that the dialogue stuff all works. Well, most of it works. I do want to talk about the ending. I don't know if we want to go there yet, though.
Well, we were already talking about, like, the kid dying and stuff like that, so what's up?
Yeah, did you guys like the fact that he died at the end?
It was a little weird. It's like, I've seen that actor before, and I know he's not a bad actor, but this was not his best performance.
His death was very kind of unintentionally funny. Because he starts to ramble about finding out that he's this dude's son, and then he kind of laughs, and then he just dies.
Rogues, yeah.
I was just like, why wasn't this guy played by Walken? Because Walken could have owned this. A man laughing maniacally and then just dropping dead. That is such a Walken thing that you needed Walken to make it work. But I like the idea of him dying because it was kind of it was a fitting ending to a movie about an immortal that his child dies in his arms.
Like, did they have that line where she said, "You've never seen a kid die before"?
Yeah, they brought that up. One of your kids died before, and he says no. And then they drive off. I thought that was a very, very fitting place to end this story.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, I found that really interesting. I think it happened too quickly, but at the same time, they seeded it really well.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know, maybe it would have worked better if he just said, like, he says his last name, he's like, Boston, you were a professor, and then he just straight up fell down, as opposed to, like, talking about the whiskers and the dog and everything. Like, I like the rush of details and just freaked the hell out, and he's like, Mother said you left us and stuff. That was all really fascinating, but at the same time, I don't know. It was just too much all at once, and it was too quick, I think.
Well, I think the rush of information works fine, and the premise of him dying in a heart attack is fine. I think it was just the way it happened, because again, it's that laugh at the end, and then the fact that he drops on the ground. That was hilarious.
And
again,
the camera shot they used for that.
What was that?
I don't know. Also, like the camera shot they used for when he laughed and he was like turning back and then he just keeled over and like I don't know. It was amusing unintentionally.
Again, Walken. Walken could have owned it.
I do agree with you guys that I think the especially the way you explained it, Bill, like the thought process behind the death makes sense to me now, but I really didn't like the execution. I thought it was way too rushed. I felt like um, they're trying to give some gravity to the fact that he's watching his own son die, and it's the first time ever for him in all of his long life, and it's something like a moment for him, and they really botched that. I thought because it was just like the way that the guy actually died and the way that the lines were done right before them. Like I was like, this is so random.
To that point, I will falter the film for our connection with John, because we get a funny scene and an intentionally funny scene at the beginning of that scene where he's talking about the pun names he's used, which I thought was very
That
was so clever.
John Oldman, John Paleo, John Savage,
John Tea Party. that was genius. And then where I will falter the film is that we get this funny scene, and then very quickly we realize that he's this dude's father. He dies, and then there's no more dialogue. So our connection to his depression and his emotions during that moment is a little weak. That's why we'll falter it, because it's like we really should feel this guy's pain, for we have this immortal man who just watched his own son die. He outlives everyone he loves, and that's a point that's brought up. We just don't get the connection to the character that we get in other versions of this kind of story.
I mean, really, I don't know, Bill, would you have laughed if this went out on the Queen song from Highlander? You know the one I'm talking about. Would you have laughed?
Oh, that would have been, yeah.
Hit the same
words.
words.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious.
Really, I don't know, like, that scene really killed me when I was watching it in Highlander. Nobody wants to live forever. I don't know, this might have worked. This might have been the only other movie where it would have worked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if I would have laughed, but I think that would have been another tearjerker.
Well, to be fair, I think that the emotions they were going for, Queen would not have been the correct band to use, because, Highlander's an action movie, and this is a philosophical debate movie, so.
I don't know, I found that really interesting.
And Ian is yawning during his talking.
Sorry.
Crucify him in the comments!
There were children here this morning, and they felt the need to scream constantly. It was very annoying. Like, they wouldn't shut up. It's like, I wish I was an immortal so I could just kick them and it would be okay.
What? How would that be okay if you were...
I don't know, Bill. It's late. I'm tired. Talking to you.
Are you?
Bill's just being really quiet.
I put a spring in your step, motherfucker.
I don't know, I'm waiting for one of you to yawn to see if yawning is not only contagious in person, but also through the internet.
No, apparently being sick is, because I got sick a day after I talked to a friend of mine and had the same thing. And I was like, there's wizardry going on here.
There's a virus on the computer.
No, there is black magic occurring here. There must be.
Do you guys think that, what did you guys think of his son's character overall?
I thought his character was really, really interesting. Because to build into the whole immortal thing, he goes off on that rant about whether or not he should feel guilty about being immortal, and he says that
the survivor's guilt was really interesting.
Yeah, because and then of course we reveal his wife died yesterday, and that's just this scene of like it puts a whole nother layer onto this well-considered notion of an immortal and his revealing it to a bunch of people who are not immortal. And I thought that was another really well-handled aspect. And again, being a psychiatrist, he asks the right questions about how he feels about certain kind of things. How he felt about all these scenarios. Did you ever feel this? Did you ever know your father? All this stuff. Another kind of seeded part to the ending. And to his character. So I really enjoyed his character. I thought he was really, really fascinating. My only problem with him is he shows up, he leaves, and then he's totally unstable. So it was a little weird.
I mean, I do like that they preface it with, his wife just died, and so I mean, there's that I'm trying to remember the scientific name for it, but broken heart syndrome. You guys heard of that?
Is that the scientific name?
No, I'm trying to remember the scientific name.
Oh, okay.
But the popular name is broken heart syndrome, and it's something that actually occurs a lot where after someone's been in a relationship for so long, if their partner dies, it tends to happen a lot where they'll go really quickly afterwards, just because it's that mind body kind of thing where your mind just kind of gives up. It doesn't know how to cope anymore, and it shuts down bodily processes. And it's fascinating because you can give medication. You can be given medications and surgeries that will directly counteract what's happening. It's supposed to physically counteract what's happening, and it won't work. And it drives doctors crazy.
I have heard of this now that you've explained it. Yeah.
It's one of those really interesting little things where you guys don't know everything, but it's interesting that he dies. I mean, it really does kind of see the end. Like I said, not only with the heart condition, not only with the fact that he's very, very unstable, just because he seems a little on edge, but they really do set up this guy to die at the end for this exact reason.
I thought of all the characters, he had the most, and not counting John in this, he had the most well-established setup.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only other one that we get any background of his life. You notice that? Like, besides John, obviously, he's the only other character that we get any kind of background about how his life works, except for Tony Todd apparently liking to watch, or apparently going to watch Star Trek.
That was a clever reference, I thought. Well, that, and also we get and if this counts even, we get a little bit about the childhood of the college student.
Oh yeah,
and not that doesn't really count though, because it's one like event in her life, and it's just there to make a point about John.
Yeah, I mean, really, besides John and the psychologist character, we don't really know anything about these people.
Right.
Like, we know that the really annoying actor, just wrote a book. That's about it. I mean, the movie could have benefited from having a little bit more details about these people's lives. Like I said, this movie could kind of benefit from a prologue to get us more invested in the ensemble cast as opposed to just
let me throw this out there to that point. I think that would have benefited greater from that is if we would have had actors who were more experienced and able to put more personality into each of their lines so they wouldn't have to do that, because we could learn of who these people are as people through their already established lines just based on their performance. And with too many
I don't know, like here, let me use the example that I think really establishes why we need a prologue, because it really comes out of nowhere and we're supposed to really care a lot. The one woman who's like a religious fundamentalist. You have nothing to realize that she is fundamentally religious until it comes up that she happens to be fundamentally religious.
You see, I didn't even know who she was supposed to be in relativity to the college angle until they say it.
She could very well be a theology professor.
I think they say that she is, and they just don't bring it up until then. That's where I agree with you. Where I'm going to disagree with you is I think that the reveal of him being Christ and then her reaction, I thought was a little bit cooler in that way, because we didn't know that she was going to react that way.
Yeah, but I mean, it would have worked better, because I think that it kind of comes out of nowhere, and if you cared more about her, I mean, she's really just such a flat character.
She's also kind of a slut. Because she wants to fuck John.
They were kidding. It's called flirting.
Well, she's a slut. She's a 60.
That old lady is a slut.
She's a 60-year-old
slut. You know a lot about
exactly.
these characters. Tell us the rest of the histories of these characters, Bill.
Well, you see, the reason why she's so religious is because she spent 10 years as a pole dancer.
See, this is why I wish Milan was here, because it'd be so much more entertaining.
Fuck you.
No, but I thought that that character was annoying when she had that like bitchy moment, and like it shouldn't have been, because it's like it's a valid way to feel,
Yeah.
but we didn't have any connection with her prior, so it was just like, hey, why are you being such a bitch, you know? Like,
Yeah, I mean, actually, one of the lines I really liked from the love interest character is she said, "You know, I've always had an enormous respect for you. Thank you. I'm losing that right
That
now."
was really clever. The one line I liked to in the context of her character, and I mean Edith in that case, the religious nut, was when she says, "It's disgusting how little you're empathizing with my feelings," and then someone else says, "Yeah, and it's equally disgusting how you're not empathizing about John." I was like, "Fuck you, yeah," because she doesn't consider his feelings towards he's Christ and all that, so. But it was mutual disrespect going on.
I think this movie could work a lot better with the prologue, because I mean, essentially, we do kind of get an epilogue. I mean, the movie should have, or was supposed to, it seemed, ended with them just deciding to leave and everyone saying goodbye. But we get the epilogue with his son dying and the romantic interest deciding to drive away with him.
I don't see that as an epilogue. I see that as the conclusive ending.
Well, I don't know. I think the movie ended when everybody left. I think the movie ended when everybody left the house.
Maybe.
And I see everything that happens after that as kind of an epilogue. Because just so much of the movie is completely set in the house that once you start leaving there, you feel like it's over.
I mean,
well, so in that way, isn't them driving up to his car when he's packing up kind of a prologue?
Not really, because you're getting plot details at that point, as opposed to characters. Prologues and epilogues are usually to resolve characters. And I've been reading I've recently finished listening to The Fault in Our Stars a couple times, and I really do respect epilogues so much more than I used to, because Shakespeare once said that a good play doesn't need an epilogue. But alright, so in the Fault in Our Stars, these characters are reading a book in which it ends in the middle of so that like the whole premise of the book is that they're trying to figure out how the characters in the book that they're reading ends. And yeah, I mean, like, you could only imagine how frustrating it is not to have an epilogue and say, oh, this character went off and did this thing, this character went off and did this thing. So I really respect epilogues so much more for that very reason.
If they could do that with Harry Potter, there would be a lot of angry fans out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about, like, what if I was just reading this book and these characters that I'm really interested in just stopped in the middle of
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's one of those things, like, so I really think that is an epilogue, because it answers the question that you were supposed to have been left with, and it tells you what the characters did at the end, as opposed to just kind of ending where I think the movie was intended to end. And I really do say that this movie would be improved by a prologue. And it's not like they couldn't do one, because it's a movie. All you need is another set to show these people. And I mean, you can get a college set really easily. Here's what you do. You go to a college campus with a camera. No one will care.
but like, what do you think the prologue will add that like they couldn't have done just by tweaking the writing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think adding a prologue does tweak the writing. I just think that I think that the script is so tight and so well formatted once they're in the house that a 5-minute prologue would be great, because then you wouldn't have to adjust that to add any more setup of them talking in the beginning to get to your premise. Like, I mean, it's really kind of awkward conversations. Probably the worst part of the movie, when they're talking before he starts to talk about the premise of the film.
I don't think that was bad. Well, in that case, it's setting up a setting as opposed to character stuff. It's setting up, and not. I mean,
no, I just feel like the conversation they're having before he introduces the premise of the film is kind of dull, because it's just character setup. It's that it's that classic convention of theater to give your background, that exposition. But I just feel like if you're in a movie, you should use the format of film to your advantage and just show these characters and give us a reason to care about them beforehand. Because like here's how the movie starts: is they're talking about you don't run out on a goodbye party. The whole point is to say goodbye. Well, here's what you do: you put the scene, you give us a scene with each of these characters that's only a little bit of time, but it tells us everything we need to know about them before they go to the goodbye party.
I don't know. I don't think it's. I don't think that would be a good enough reason to do. I think that we get enough. The only one I agree with you on is that we get kind of thrown into the theologist part. I think everyone else is well established.
No, I think you could better establish them, just because it would just work better if there was a small prologue for those characters. You know, if we saw them teaching even in the opening credits, that would have been good.
I don't think that would be necessary either. I think that we get enough about how they would teach through their dialogue and the way they ask the questions. Like we through the biology teacher, I think we know that okay, he's kind of a kooky biology teacher who makes jokes because he does that with his friends too. So, I think the only one who we needed a little bit more background on, and again, just one line is, oh, she's a theology teacher. She's obsessed with religion.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's we needed more about why she's so fun. You know, as someone in the philosophy department, I run across theologists a lot. Most of them are atheists. Just saying. Anyway, so that's one of the things that's really interesting about her character is because I mean John, it's interesting because John and her are kind of a foil in that way because he's an atheist because he's heard too many stories about different gods, and she's a theist, or she's she's a believer even though she's in theology, which is where you talk about all these different contradicting theories about God or gods.
Right.
So that's a really interesting foil that they have, and it's unstated, it's not unstated, but they don't talk about it directly, which was fascinating.
But like, I feel like it would have worked better if like they had shown somehow like moments where you could empathize with her or show that she's not a giant douche, like. Because, like, why would John be friends with this woman at all? Like, she seems just kind of like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, to be fair, everything he's saying is very directly, fundamentally abrasive towards her beliefs, and that's fair enough. I don't have a problem with how she's characterized. I just need to know that this isn't her all the time, you know?
But we don't get that.
Yeah, I'd agree, but it seems like that's what they're trying to show, is that with that line, you know, I've always had a great respect for you. It seems like this is trying to demonstrate that she's not like this all the time, but you really don't get that, and that's the annoying part.
Well, I think that could have been fixed with more dialogue from her at the beginning, because she's
possibly, but like I said, Bill, possibly, but I like the beginning. I like the movie as is once they're in the house. I just think that if you added something at the beginning, it would have worked better. Because she's such a sweet old lady once he says, yeah, I'm not really Jesus.
Yeah, but that was a little bit, that's almost like, it's not that she's sweet, it's that he's bending to her own kind of, it's almost like she's controlling in that way. I don't know, I think that just some more, she's the quietest easily of all of them, aside from the college student, even before the premise of the film gets introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to talk about. I mean, we talked about the Buddha thing. One thing we didn't really get into was, how about the humor in this movie? Did anyone have any favorite jokes? Because there are a lot of really subtle jokes that I enjoyed. No? Dang.
I'm gonna say the pun thing was mine.
The pun thing? Yeah, that was good. I don't know, I liked some of the... There are some really sly historical references in there that I thought were funny. But I'm a bit of a history buff, so I don't want to explain the history to explain why some of these jokes were funny.
There was one that I was with you that I liked too, and I don't remember what it was now. Fuck. But there was a history reference that I thought was kind of funny too that I don't remember.
I really like the Columbus jokes. Like, I was pretty sure the Earth was round, but I thought he might fall off of an edge somewhere.
There was another one I heard that I liked. Fuck, what was it? I don't remember now. It's gonna come to me as soon as we stop recording, though. So
Probably. All right, yeah. So I mean, I enjoyed the humor in this, except for the whole caveman first wedding thing.
that was funny. Shut up.
That was dumb.
That was funny.
It was so unnecessary. Like there was no reason for it to be there, except it seemed like they really wanted to have that actor act like a caveman.
He was a funny character, I thought.
No, it's weird because like he goes outside, and he comes back. It's like, okay, let's change the subject, and it's like, okay, let's change the subject by not changing the subject at all with this stupid joke.
I thought it was funny.
Well, you're wrong.
Well, humor is subjective, so fuck yourself.
No, it's not. Humor is objectively funny. There is no subjectivism to
That's dark and stupid. Just like your face. Oh,
see how that wasn't funny at all?
that was hilarious.
No.
This is so awkward now.
I know, right? I'm just gonna say
getting
that
weird.
everything you say is not funny. See, you laughed because that was hilarious. All right.
If you guys were the ones like doing the editing for the writing or whatever, are there any major changes you would have made? I know, Ian, you said that you'd add a prologue. Is there anything else that you guys would make major changes to this movie? If you,
I would honestly cut out the leather jacket dude. I don't think he's necessary because he's quiet for the last like 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because he shares a lot of the same professional qualities that the Tony Todd character does.
Yeah, I think they could have been turned into the same character.
And yeah, I mean, he's just there to be the one that gets the most angry.
Even though he's not by the end, because then it's Edith who is. Well, not angry, she's the most freaked out by it, I think.
I mean, like, when he leaves at the end of the movie, he's still angry at him.
That's fair. Yeah. I would probably cut him out.
I also feel like he's one of those I felt like they were trying to get all the stereotypical professors in there, and like he's like the stereotypical like I'm trying to be cool kind of professor.
No, he's like, I mean, hanging out with the student, riding a motorcycle when you got gray hair. That's a bit awkward.
He looks a lot like one of my uncles.
I don't know. He just didn't fit in
stereotype.
any way to me. I mean, there's just so much about him that like it really feels like they picked the wrong actor for this character because he should have been a much younger professor, in my opinion.
I think the age worked fine for that stereotype. It was just he was off. I'll agree.
Yeah,
It was a little.
I don't know.
But I don't know. I think that I would either cut that character out or change some aspects of him. But he was my biggest problem with it in that way.
Yeah, that character didn't really work. But it's such a weird thing because I feel like I'm nitpicking at a certain point with this movie because it's just so good.
Yeah, that's the one thing we haven't really. But well, let me ask, Steve-O, is there anything, since you're the one who asked the question, is there anything you would edit going back and reading the script or editing the film yourself, or?
So the son character, I would either have him there for the whole movie. I mean, like he could go, when he goes to get some air, that's fine. But I mean, like have him from the beginning. Or not have him die at all. I know you guys really liked him dying, but I actually thought it would have been just as good of an ending, and it wouldn't have been as awkward based on the fact the way it was actually executed. If like after he's like laughing and babbling, they just like kind of like walk in together, and it kind of just like ends kind of like there. I don't know. I thought that would have been fine too.
Fair.
Yeah, I think
like the death part, but still, that's fine. Yeah.
It just didn't. I don't know why the ending didn't work. I mean, like in theory, it should have worked. Like the way you explained it, Bill, like works better for me. Like when I hear it from you, but when I watched it, it didn't work.
Well, I do agree with your point that it's a little rushed. So I don't know. Maybe if it would have been a little bit a bigger deal made out of it, I think that we wouldn't have these problems. But yeah, it's definitely not perfect for what it's trying to do. I'll agree with you there.
Did you guys feel any, like, because, like, when I watched it, I totally got like the philosophical, like it was like, oh, like mentally it was interesting, but all the emotional parts, like I didn't really feel any of those emotional parts too much at all. I mean, I don't know if it was just me, but
I thought that was an acting thing, just because these actors were not really, up. I didn't think the actors were up to snuff with the script.
Yeah, there's my thing that I'd change besides adding a prologue is just, for the love of God, get a better budget so we could afford. Like, imagine how good this movie would be if we could get some A-list actors in this.
I don't know about
Yeah.
A-list, I don't know about well-known, but, like, just people who have that quality, who can, like, own it.
No, I mean A-list actors that are like quality actors, you know.
Tom Cruise as John Oldman.
No.
Miley Cyrus as that angry old lady.
Okay, why is Miley Cyrus not playing college student?
Morgan Freeman as that black professor.
No lie, I was actually thinking that.
Morgan Freeman could have totally worked this, or either him or Idris Elba.
Yeah, no. Idris Elba's a little too young. Because he has that line of "You're too young to have done this before," which was really funny.
That's true too.
I don't know. Like
Christopher Walken as his son.
No, seriously though, some A-list actors could have made this script they could have embellished it a lot more and just done more with the rich material that's here. A lot of these lines kind of just get glossed over. Like, imagine Bill Murray playing the biologist.
Oh, that would have been great.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
just imagine, like, John Oldman's a harder one to pick, but, like, I don't know why it's coming to my mind, but Adrian Brody.
No.
No, like, he's actually a really good actor.
He is, but I don't know if he's right for that part. Because I actually like, out of all of them, I think he's the best.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you got, like, I mean, what is that movie called where he played the piano player?
The pianist.
The Pianist? Yeah.
I just felt like I agree with Bill. Like, this actor was so, like, understated and yet so, like informal, yet, with it. I don't know. I feel like he did a really great job.
Yeah, he was the best part of the movie as far as the acting side of things goes. Once we get out of the script, he was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, some A-list actors really could have added a lot to this movie just because they could have embellished the rich part of the scripts and just some of the lines, the way they're delivered. Like, the questions are fascinating, but the delivery is not.
Liam Neeson as the leather jacket dude.
I could buy it. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and his giant cock.
You know who I could see as playing John Oldman? Who's the last guy who played the Hulk? What's his name?
Oh, Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah,
Oh.
I can see him.
Maybe, yeah.
That
could work.
Possible.
He's got like that sort of
as the biologist.
casual demeanor, but
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I could buy Mark Ruffalo. No, it's just like some of these parts, just if you had better actors, they would work a lot better. Like Bill Murray or Tom Hanks as the biologist would work.
Or
great.
Robert Downey Jr.
So this is just going to be Avengers, but...
Yes! Chris Evans might even be a good John Oldman.
This is really odd. I don't know if you're joking or not, Bill.
Or
The Avengers from Earth.
Christian Bale as John Oldman. And he uses the Batman voice. I was Jesus Christ!
I talk like this because I'm a caveman.
I was like, that'd be the greatest thing. He's like, I'm actually a caveman. We know. We caught on a long
And as
time.
soon as that part comes, like the rest of the time he's talking normally, but as soon as that hits, he just starts acting like a stereotypical caveman. He just starts like running on all fours around the living room, like touching shit and dropping shit and talking like a caveman. Oh, perform.
I want to see Christian Bale play a caveman now.
I'm your father.
Now I want to see Christian Bale play Darth Vader. Star Wars prequels, make it happen.
Darth
Oh,
Caveman.
Oh no.
I don't know, how old would Christian Bale have been back when they were making those? Yeah, he could have pulled off Anakin. That could have worked.
No, he would have been too old back then, because like, I'm trying to think when American Psycho came out.
2001.
Yeah, he was too old, I think.
No, American Psycho came out in '01, and I think he was 25, 24. He was really young in that.
But Christensen was like early 20s.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I'm not saying I would have preferred Christensen over Christian Bale. But
I don't know. I mean, Christian Bale looked fairly young in Batman Begins in those flashbacks, so they could have made it happen.
Yeah.
maybe.
What do you guys think about? What do you guys think about the fact that the screenwriter, like, he had this like idea bouncing around in his head for like 30, 40 odd years, like.
You can tell because it's really well formatted script.
And really passionately thought out.
Like, I mean, we complain about the contrivance with the whole Tibetan thing. Did we have any other really big complaints with the plot?
Not
Conceit.
really. Well, the
the
original conceit of why is he telling them. But that's just a sci-fi thing you have to get over. You know, it's the same thing of Kryptonians look human.
Yeah, it's really that's just one of those things. It's just conceits in sci-fi are, endless, and it's just like, this is not Captain Logan's book. This is not unapologetically sci-fi. It's a science fiction premise that's really fascinating once you start to look into it. It's just like Planet of the Apes. Like, okay, 3,000 years, 9,000 years, and suddenly everyone's a monkey? What? How did that work?
It was even less than that, because you go from 1976 to 3005.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Is when Apes ends, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, what? It doesn't make any sense once you think about it factually, but if you just go with it, it just works.
It's a fascinating premise, and yeah, I agree. Planet of the Apes is a great thing to compare it to, because when you overanalyze it, it falls apart. Because no, of course, this physically is impossible. No.
Well, no, I mean, it doesn't fall apart because they don't go so far as to give an exact physical reason. They speculate at it, but they don't give an exact bare bones physical reason. There are just a couple small problems that are seriously just like could be solved, but just weren't.
Yeah.
They didn't think about it from this thing. And honestly, I think these are retrospective problems only. I don't think this is something you could get from a script.
No, because you're so enthralled in how amazing the dialogue is that you don't consider them. You're just like, oh, of course he was trained by Tibetans. You just go with it because you're just so enthralled with the ideas of the film. So these problems we're picking out of a much larger picture. So just keep that in mind as you're listening to this review if you haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah. And like I said, this movie isn't like completely fundamentally based on its plot terms with the Christ thing and the sun dying, but it's still, those are good treats.
William Stone Audio Files, Case 1, Entry 1. My hometown of Carl Place has never been one to fear. It has always been quiet and peaceful. And God, how I've hated it. There is no adventure here. No veil of mystery. Until now. 2 violent murders, both on consecutive nights, with nothing connecting the victims and no evidence as to the identity of the killer. All that is known is that the wounds are so savage in nature that it is doubtful they were caused by anything human. But Carl Place has no indigenous wildlife that is capable of inflicting such wounds, and there are no reports of missing dogs or escaped zoo animals who could be claimed. This leads one to the conclusion that neither a human or an animal could be responsible. Reasonable, but untrue. Because the only conclusion that truly makes any sense in this case, given these facts, is that it must have been both.
Sorry about that, everyone. We had a technical difficulty, so you got to see Bill's trailer for his movie in the meantime.
Oh, really?
Anyway,
Awesome.
that's what the plan was, but you had to go and spoil it by commenting on me inserting it in there, but oh well. So anyway, as I was saying, this movie really does work, even if you know the plot twist. And I mean, you can see them coming. So if you've listened to this and you're really interested, go ahead and watch the movie anyway, because it's still really fascinating. We didn't even touch on some of the most interesting parts of it, because you could talk about the ideas, but it's not as interesting as seeing them talk about it and mention it, and just the intricacies of the performance from John's character. So it's definitely worth talking about, or it's definitely worth sitting down and watching. And if you have Netflix, it's right there. Honestly, get Netflix if you're a regular viewer of this show, because we talk about a lot of things that are on there and that are kind of underground, so it kind of helps to get a hold of that.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so let's wrap up and talk and do a rating of the film. I give this movie 5 clubs out of 5.
Oh, that's generic.
Fuck it. Why do you always judge what I'm using to rate the movie? All right.
Because you're a generic fuck and I hate you.
Fine. I give this movie 5 Immortals Hearts out of 5. Yeah. Fuck you, boy. Whatever you say, I'm gonna hate.
I don't haterade going around here.
Yeah, I don't care what you think of my ratings. I'm gonna give the movie 4.5 pipes that could be mistaken for guns out of 5.
Wait, what?
When he pulls the pipe out that he thought was a gun.
Fuck you, that is so obscure.
But it's better than your bullshit.
No, because mine was related to the whole caveman thing.
And mine was related to a direct scene in the movie that only people who have seen the movie will understand.
So?
You guys are all special and wonderful, now just hug it out.
No,
I will
refuse
never
to
touch Ian's body because I don't want to be lit on fire.
Yeah, anyway. So Steve-O, how about you?
I give it 4 Tibetan monks out of 5.
See, that works. That works. It's a direct story.
I think you're just trying to pick on me, sir.
You see, no, because that works as a direct callback to the story. Well done, sir. High five. Internet high five. Yes. Nice.
Did you both actually do that?
Yeah, we did a double high five at different moments in time. What you gonna do about it?
I don't know. Weep for your loss. Of all that is cool.
We love Ian. It's okay. We love Ian very much.
No, not the love.
Ian, let's not fight in front of the kids.
It's burning me.
Yeah, but Ian, let's not fight in front of the kid. What's next week's topic?
Alright, next week we're going to be talking about sci-fi and whether or not it works better in film or on television.
Yes, we are.
And that's something that we had to come up with on the spot because Milan isn't here and it was his week to pick. Oh well. So, Milan's out in idea topic, so we won't be talking about, I don't know, Russian... I don't know.
We won't be dedicating a video to that one monotone Russian dude who dubbed everything in Milan's childhood.
We really should, though.
Yeah, we should, but we won't.
Should. Just like, God, he was supposed to start a series as that guy, and it would have been hilarious.
And he never... Well, Jebediah, it kind of got turned into Jebediah Springsteen, didn't it?
No. He was supposed to start a series where he just dubbed scenes as the monotone Russian guy from really epic-ass movies, and just the worst dubbing ever, just,
The ending of the Avengers.
No. It would have been like, Luke, I am your father. No.
The opening of The Godfather.
I haven't seen The Godfather.
Wait, that's the guy that was really scary that creeped me out, right?
Oh, really? You got actually creeped out by Jebediah Springsteen? No, it's hilarious, dude. I promise. Dude, he described the animal, but serious. It was hilarious.
That was my favorite, because it came out as such a one-off reference I made to a really shitty movie. And then Milan like, oh, no, we must make an entire video about the animal.
Well, no, I mean, really, when you think about it, The Animal is such a horrifying premise, but it's a comedy.
It's terrifying.
Here's the premise of the like. After he released that video, I went and watched The Animal, and here's what happens. It's Rob Schneider. He's a cop. He's going on a call to stop a robbery. This is going to be the big moment where he really proves himself as a legitimate officer. But he drives off of a cliff and gets in a horrible car accident. So this guy comes across him, takes his limp, broken body out of the car, back to his barn, where he uses all the animals from a traveling circus that he's procured. Wait, no, from a celebrity zoo that he's procured, uses all of their body parts and puts them inside of him, then takes him back to the car accident and leaves him there.
How fucked up is that? It is insanely fucked up.
Right?
And it is supposed to be a family comedy.
It's like an insanely disturbing premise, and so Milan just takes it as Gemini Springsteen and really shows how horrible it is. I think my favorite line in that is, "This is the story of how I saved a man's life with my medical genius through the arts of vivisection."
Which was hilarious because I brought up the island of Dr. Moreau quite a bit in that video.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, like I said, next week we'll be talking about sci-fi and whether it works better on film or in television. And Steve-O, once again, to put pressure on you, since this is the first thing you've done in a while, what can we expect from your channel later down the line?
I guess we'll see. To be
announced?
To be announced, yes.
No, damn it, Steve-O. Go put on those go-go boots and that push-up bra and pimp yourself out. Come on. Do it. Now. Commit to something.
There will be some lip syncing involved. I was going to say limp syncing. Some lip syncing involved.
So is that like people who were injured doing lip syncing? Or lip syncing injured people?
I'm not gonna answer that. I'm gonna get in a whole heap of trouble. I don't want like people like protesting my channel.
Steve-O was against the handicapped.
Steve-O, no, everybody. Fact right here. Steve-O Cubed hates handicapped people. You know.
His new channel icon is
Milan's alley. I think I had to stay away from that one.
His new channel icon is the handicap symbol with like an X through it.
Yeah. I think.
It's like, this channel is not handicap accessible. Steve-O Cubed, 2013.
It's a copyright symbol on it. Oh, we're degenerating quickly. What's that in this?
Yeah.
Oh wait, let me whore myself out first.
Bill's movie's coming out. Bill's doing Godzilla Gang. Bill's doing Bondapalooza. Bill's doing Zcast. There.
Yeah.
See what I just did there? I took your 40-minute video that you posted yesterday and summarized about 2 seconds.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to be funny.
You failed, as we've earlier established.
Wait, hang on. I need sad Hulk music. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Sorry.
So everybody, thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm the philosopher.
I'm the fanatic.
And I'm
we are
the childhood traumatized child, apparently.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
See you later, guys.